Hi, my name is Ethan, and welcome to Geogeeks. Our first lesson is about graphing and the coordinate plane. The objective of this lesson is to learn how to plot points on a graph. On every coordinate plane, there are two axes. We have the y and the x. The y runs vertically, and the x horizontally, but they both have both positive and negative numbers. Then there's origin. Origin is the point 0, 0. That is right here, where the smiley face is, because it's a happy place. In order to plot any point, you start at origin and count the number of spaces required. Now, every coordinate point has two components, the x and the y. Sorry for my circles. The x-coordinate tells you where horizontally on the graph the point is, and the y-coordinate tells you where vertically on the graph the point is. So now we're going to do a few examples of some points. The first point we're going to graph is the point, sorry again. The first point we're going to graph is 3, 4. The 3 pertains to the x, as you can relate to over here, and the 4 pertains to the y. Now, in order to graph this, we start at origin, and we go 3 to the right and 4 up, and therefore have the point 3, 4. The next point we're going to graph is point 4, 5. Again, you start at origin, right here. You move 4 to the right, and you move 5 up. Sorry about that error. And you have your point 4, 5. Now these are the simpler ones because they're all positive integers and there's no real confusion. But when we get into negative numbers, it starts to get a little more difficult. And another more difficult component is the intercepts are also a few difficult points because they happen to be on both the y or the x axes rather than on the coordinate plane itself, meaning they are along these two axes because there's a 0. But we will talk about that later. For now, we're going to talk about negative components. The first negative component we're going to start with is a very simple one. We'll start with -1, -1. You do the same exact thing, however, you do this on both the left and the bottom part of the graph. Okay, so let's graph this. Let's start with origin, like we always do. And instead of moving to the right one, we move to the left one, because that's where -1 is on the x-axis. And then, instead of moving up, we move down 1, because that's where the negatives are on the y-axis. And therefore, we get the point -1, -1. Let's do some more practice. The point -4, -3 may seem challenging. It may seem a little intimidating, but not difficult at all. We'll use a different line for this one to make it stand out. You start at origin, right here. You move to the left -4 spots, and then you move down -3 spots, and you get the point -4, -3. What most people have confusion with are the two different parts of the component, because many people think that the y should be first and the x should be first. But that is not the case. The x is always first, and the y is always second. And even though it may seem difficult, you will get the hang of it very quickly. Okay, the last part of this lesson is what I talked about earlier, the intercepts. Now, when you have a point such as 4 comma 0 or even 0 comma 4, there's no point over here. There's no point for the y-axis, for the y, and here there's no point for the x, or so it may seem, but really they are points. Let me show you how you do this. We'll start with the first one, negative 4 comma 0. So you start at origin like you always do. Let me just pull up that line quickly. Like you always do, you start at origin. Whoops. Right here. And here it says to move up, you move to the right 4 lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But there's a 0. So you don't. So what does that mean? Where do you move on the y-axis? You don't move anywhere. That's what the 0 indicates. The 0 indicates that the point will stay on the actual axis itself, and therefore it will be a 0 of the graph. We'll talk later in the further lessons about what it means to be a 0 on the graph or a solution of the graph. But in short, it just means a point that would make this line 0. And therefore, if you can tell, the way you make this line 0 is 4 comma 0. That's where the line is at, x equals 0. Okay, now we're going to do the second one and our final one for today's lesson. Again, you start at origin right here, and here you don't move anywhere on the y-axis. You stay on the y-axis and rather move. No, sorry, my bad. You stay on the x-axis. See, even I made that mistake now, and I do this for a living. Just kidding, I'm in school still. You stay at the 0. You move up 4, but you move up 4 along the y-axis because there's no point x. Sorry, that was really bad. There's no point x. So your point 0 comma 4 looks like this right here. And therefore, graphing is much easier than it looks, as you can see. And if you do a little practice, you'll become a professional. Okay, thank you so much for visiting Geogeeks' first lesson on graphing, and check out our next one.